first question is, what separates those who can make miracles come true based on resolutions from those who give up by February the 1st?
Well, there are a number of different factors. So one factor is, are you ambitious and focused enough? Because the only people who really triumph in adversity, the only people who really reach challenging, difficult, big goals are people who are very ambitious and very focused and don't give up. That's all part of left brain function. However, in order to be that, you normally have to be a visionary, because you have to be a visionary to have that big vision. And you also have to have really healthy mental function. So you have to be someone who's in a good shape, not somebody who suffers from moods. So what we're really talking about here is the results of building your whole brain. And I can tell you, I've been working on it my whole life. I've been working on it for more than 50 years. And so I've come through all sorts of, new plateaus of functionality, new plateaus of success, new plateaus of focus and intention and action plans and all of that, because I started out as a visionary who saw things that they could be different from the way they were, and I always held to that. But the only way that I ever produced the results and reached the goals was a little bit more complicated. And as I said, it took 50 years. So maybe a lot more complicated would be the truth.
And you've really gained so much knowledge that you're so willing to share with all of your clients. We really appreciate that.
Because they have to reach their goals.
Yes. Yeah, but it's nice. You get them right to it.
I want them to reach their goals. It's only fun for me if you reach your goals. It's only fun for you if you reach your goals. So let's do it.
A win-win. Now, I'm curious, how many people do you really think make New Year's resolutions and actually never reach them?
I think it's about 97% of the population. So 90%, 97%, something like that. Very few people have a whole brain that really works well, and very few people even know about it, and very few people know what to do to make it better and enhance it. And I have done so many things for so many decades. So I keep meeting people who are very successful, and yet they don't have these skills, they don't have these tools. Then they learn some of them or all of them, and they become far more successful. So my experience is that most people just don't know how to do this.
So anybody and everybody can really gain in reaching their goals.
Yeah, I mean, you can always improve any part of your body. Your brain is part of your body. So anybody can benefit by going to the gym or doing yoga or both and building their body, or dance or Pilates, whatever. So any of you who decide to do that, if you could do that every single day, you would really be in great shape. In fact, there's a video that I just saw on Facebook. There's a woman who goes to the gym every day. She starts out weighing about, I think about 275, maybe 300 pounds. And I have not watched the whole video because I know that if she ends up, thinner than me because she goes to the gym every day, I'm going to be annoyed. So the truth is, if you work on your brain every day, you're going to have a very different life in 30 days, 60 days, 90 days.
And you'll enjoy going to the gym too, right?
Oh. Well, that's why I work on my brain, you see.
That's another show.
I gave the first 40-something years to my body. Now it's my brain's turn to be the full recipient of my attention.
Perfect. Yeah. Well, that's a good focus. My goodness. I'm in the process. Well, okay, now in our last show, I know we talked about small goals and the taking small steps is more successful. Can you remind us about that?
Yeah, this is really interesting. So this is from Dr. Evian Gordon. He talks about learning about possibility thinking and the rewards pathways, which are what he describes when dopamine is flowing in your brain. And that's when you feel great. You feel elated, you feel excited, and that's dopamine. And this is based, he says, most successfully when you set a series of small goals. because the small goals allow you to motivate yourself more effectively to your goals. And the greater your skills, of course, it's going to be the greater your success, but he talks about smaller steps. So that's something that I learned from Dr. Evian Gordon, a video that I watched. And we included that in a show that we did last year. I think it was like the end of November. And it was a show on improving your brain. You may want to watch the whole show.
Nice. That's important too. Take care of the small stuff and the bigger stuff doesn't seem as big. I like that.
Right.
Now, how do you decide on a realistic goal for ourselves?
Well, you have to look at where you are right now. So if you have a goal in terms of an intimate relationship, then you have to look to see the length of the last intimate relationship you had and how did it go. And then you want to think about what your next goal is. So maybe your next goal is to be in a lifelong committed relationship because you almost got there. But maybe you were far from reaching that goal before. Maybe you had a relationship that was really great for a year, and then you stayed together for many more years, but it was only great for a year. Well, I would say set a goal that you have a wonderful year with a wonderful person who is thrilled and excited and in love with you, and you're in love with him or her. And then while that's going on, then learn some more skills. I've got lots of skills to teach you. Now, if it's financial, look at how much you're earning right now, and then set it at, 150% of that or 125% of that. You can't suddenly decide that you're going to go from making $100,000 a year gross to $1 million a year gross. That's just fanciful. So it's something that is a push, it's a press, and it isn't unrealistic and absurd.
Okay, a real reality check here. Now, if you really are serious about having your resolution come true, what steps do you teach your clients to really reach these?
So depending on what your goal is. So if it's a goal about love, it's a goal about money, if it's a goal about health, if it's a goal about your career, if it's a goal about family, obviously your action steps are very, very different. But you have to break it down into incremental stages, right? So if you're going to call me and have a free session with me, we'll do that together. The most important thing is you can't have a great lifelong relationship if you don't have success dating. You can't have success dating if you don't have success at meeting new potential partners and being charming and motivating that person or those people to see you a second time, a third time, a fourth time, a fifth time. So you have to break it down. If you need a new job and you don't have a job, then your action steps are very different from somebody who's got a job, makes a lot of money, but maybe wants a better job, maybe wants to go from being a CFO to a CEO, or wants to go from being middle management to being top-level management. So these are the things that are common sense if you think about it, right?
Very nice. Now, where do most people really need that support with this technique?
Well, again, it depends on you, and that's why I do most of my coaching in a one-on-one basis at this point. I've done the big workshops, I've done all that, but I want you to have quick results. So the fastest results that people can get is one-on-one coaching, obviously. So the breakdown can be an inability to realize where you had problems before, last week, last month, last year. Or it may be a breakdown in an inability to set a realistic goal and stick to it. Or it may have to do with noticing that you set a goal, it's a realistic goal, you're very, very excited, but then you start to feel very sad or hopeless or frustrated or angry or whatever when you think about the job you have right now. So whether you have an upper left problem with focus, so not enough upper left focus, thank you, Fred, or whether you have a lower left challenge with planning and organizing and generating action steps, or perhaps you have a lower right brain problem, a challenge in figuring out who to ask for help, how to motivate people to support you, or again, that mood swing issue. Those are all challenges in the lower right brain. Or perhaps you have the primary challenge, which is the vision in the first place. You know where you are, but you don't have enough of that visionary thinking to even imagine that you could be somewhere else. I mean, Gigi was talking about health before in the intro, and I was someone who suffered from really awful allergies and asthma, and I always had a vision of what it would be like to be healthy. I always held to that vision. I stuck with that. I did lots of things. I consulted with so many doctors of every kind of, stripe, and ultimately here I am. And of course, it wasn't a doctor at all. It was Howard Wills who made the final, the final stage. But you have to have a visionary brain. You have to have a connecting emotional brain. You have to have a logical analytical brain. You have to have a step-by-step planning, safety, and organizing brain. And only 1% of us has all of that. So for the rest of us, we just have to work on it.
What an exciting challenge right there.
Yes, it could take 6 or 7 or 107 lifetimes, but that's not that we complain.
Oh my goodness. Well, now, would you please walk us through the kind of support that someone really may need if they have trouble creating an exciting enough goal?
Yeah, I mean, it's so much fun for me to work with someone who needs my help to envision a more fabulous life. That's really fun because then I can use all of my strategic thinking, which is for me a lot more fun than other kinds of support that I offer. So strategic thinking is looking at somebody's situation like yours, seeing what's possible given who you are and what your resources are and what your talents are and what your abilities are and who you know and where you're located and all that. And then from that, look at what would happen if we put a booster rocket on you. Where could you fly to with a booster rocket? And think about that for yourself. And one of the things you can do about it is you can dream about it. As you go to sleep tonight, you can think to yourself, where could I be if I had an incredible opportunity? Or where could I be if I could motivate somebody wealthy or famous or really successful to help me use my skills and tools? Where could I end up? And I work with a lot of people figuring that out with you. So that's a really interesting thought. And you can dream about it, and you can wake up in the middle of the night and went, oh my goodness, I could call so-and-so.
Oh, I like that. Just putting it out there. Oh my gosh, thank you, Susan. Would you now walk us through a focus problem and how someone can really shift that?
Well, the interesting thing about focus is that usually is caused by insufficient dopamine and cheerfulness and upbeatness and cheerleading mentality and hopefulness and excitement and all of that. And sometimes it's also because we don't have enough self-respect to see ourselves really living a different kind of life, different quality of life. And then the way to get over that is to start hanging around with very different people. You hang out with people who are very successful, some of their success thinking is going to rub off on you. And that's the very best thing that could happen to you. And I remember, so many of the things I've learned from the different men that I dated, and so many things I learned from different family members. And it has made me who I am today, obviously. So focus is something that you can learn, but it is really, again, the function of your brain. Because if you look at any political candidate who wins, and even some who haven't won, you'll see focus. Look at Bernie Sanders now. If you look at Facebook tonight, you look at Bernie Sanders on Facebook tonight, he is still in there pitching. He has never stopped pitching. Now, whether you like his politics or don't, it doesn't matter. I'm asking you to look at what focus looks like. Really interesting. very inspiring.
I like that. Great example. How dangerous is it to, let's say, change your mind when you are working towards resolutions?
Well, of course, that's what happens if you don't have enough focus, you know? So if you don't have enough focus, you're going to change your mind or lose interest. And that's the upper left that needs to be developed. Or you may not have enough stick-to-itiveness. That's the lower left brain, where you have to keep taking the steps, keep doing the action until you reach it no matter what. You know, that old thing about you have to keep churning the cream until it turns into butter. You don't stop in the middle. So that's building your left brain. And of course, the danger is, very simply, you won't reach your goals. I mean, this was a thing that I noticed about myself. And I remember this because I did this event that was called the 6-day course, and there were these mountain climbing events. And, you know, if you know me, I'm not like the type of person you'd expect to be mountain climbing. But it was part of this transformational 6-day workshop. So they had us do this thing called the Tyrolean Traverse, where you're pulling your weight upside down and backwards across a ravine.
Oh, my.
And I'm also afraid of heights. You know, kind of all goes together. Not athletic, afraid of heights, but so interested in personal transformation that I would even do that. So I'm pulling my weight upside down and backwards. Well, I'm a smart cookie, so I realized that if I moved my legs in that direction, my legs, the power of my legs would mean I wouldn't have to work so hard with my arms. But boy, did I want to stop. I did this like 3 different times and doing a lot of volunteer work. But the very first time, I so wanted to stop. And my illustrator, Stephen Ellis, was there, because, you know, I was in the fashion industry. And Stephen started screaming abusively at me to get me to keep going. And it was so, I mean, Stephen was this beautiful, beautiful guy. And so I mean, the juxtaposition of me hanging over like a 500-foot drop down into a ravine, the fact that I literally was exhausted, the fact that Stephen was so compassionate, he knew if he didn't get me into like an adrenaline frenzy, I was probably never going to make it. So he figured the best thing to do was just abuse me. It was like, you know, boot camp, and it worked. So what you have to do is you have to know who you are, and you have to surround yourself with friends in a situation like that so that you can reach your goals. And no matter how much you want to quit, think of me in that scenario and you'll keep going.
Oh my gosh, so the cheerleader really helped.
Yes, he was doing reverse cheerleading. Right, yeah, it's very funny.
Oh. Now, what about someone who has mood issues?
Well, I've seen this so often, mostly with women who work with me. This is why I'm so indebted to Mary at O Vitamin Pro, who gives a free consultation, and then we'll sell them the saliva and urine test so they can see that they do have a mood issue, that it's not the goal that's the problem, and it's not their family or their loved one or their husband or wife or boyfriend or boss. It's not that. It's not that they hate any of these people or situations. It's that they have a war going on inside. And when you know that it's brain chemistry, then you can stop listening to it. You can stop listening to that little voice, and you can just go, wait a second. You mean if I take something that's going to boost my dopamine and my serotonin, I'm not going to feel this way? Well, yes, that's exactly what I'm saying. So
Perfect.
do it, and life becomes easier.
Nice. So there, once again, another answer and solution. Now, I know that some people really become anxious just by setting goals. What can they do?
You know, this is a nightmare if you suffer from this. So when I was in design school, I'm not an artist, but I have good ideas, right? So I took a life drawing class for the first time in my life. I'm already in school. Everybody else has been doing this since they were 5 years old. So I'm in school. So again, the smart rat that I figured out, you know. So the teacher comes around and I start a new sketch, right? And it's lousy. And by the time she comes around, I've already switched to another page and I've started another one. So she never finds out for the first semester probably that I really can't draw, which is okay because during the Christmas holiday I go take, drawing classes at the Art Students League so I can draw. It was really kind of scary, but the bottom line is I would look at what I was drawing and I was horrified, and I could see myself tanking right away, and I had the presence of mind to realize that wasn't going to help me. So I would just start again. So whatever you have to do to make sure you don't get into the state of despondency and hopelessness and giving up, you've got to do that as long as it's, within the law.
With great advice. Okay, well now, Susan, let's talk about action steps and how do we plan for that?
Again, if you have a really strong part of the brain, in this case the lower left brain, you don't need any support and training from me because you already know how to do this. You know how to take preventative action, you know how to make lists, you know how to do everything on the list, you know how to number everything on the list and switch numbers, not a big deal. But if you're listening to me and you don't know how to do this, it's simply that you need to be trained, and that's where I teach people time management skills. That's all part of this. And the key to time management, by the way, is you must always be early. You cannot plan to be on time, not humanly possible. Unless you're the President of the United States, then whether you're on time or you're not on time, everybody waits for you. But other than that, you have to be early. So if you're someone who has planning problems and challenges with being places on time, you've got to reconfigure and decide you're always going to get every place 15 minutes early. And if you really have challenges, then get every place 30 minutes early. Because nowadays, you've got a cell phone, you've got something to do, right? So this is really key. There are skills and tools that I teach, and of course support I offer, so that no matter what challenge you have based on your brain wiring, based on your brain chemistry, you can live the life you desire.
Nice. How many goals should we set at a time?
If this is something you're starting tonight, you never did this before, please create only 3 goals. And they have to be incremental. So it's not just goal number 1 is, I have a great new job by February 1st, 2017, and I have a great new relationship by February 14th. It's not that. You have to do it intelligently and incrementally. So if you're looking for a new job, then one goal would be that you have 3 interviews by February 1st, 2017. Then you would have 1 or 2 job offers, whichever you say. So let's say 1 job offer by February 15th, 2017. Then you begin your new job as, and then the title, receiving whatever the total dollars gross is per year, and then you've got that. So you've got the interviews, you've got the job offers, and then you've got the completion, which is the realization that you have a new job.
Nice. Very organized. Mm-hmm. Now, if someone misses the deadline, what do they do?
It's very tempting to give up. It's very tempting to just forget about it. Don't, if you have your goals on your bathroom mirror, which is one of the places I tell my clients to put it, it's very tempting to just rip it off the last day and throw it in the garbage and forget about it. I can tell you, this stuff works. If you want these goals, don't do that. And what I always recommend, and what I do myself, I wait until midnight of that night or when I wake up the next morning, because amazing things can happen while you're asleep. Amazing things can happen up till the very last second. You can get a PayPal payment that you're not aware of. A check can be sitting there in your mailbox that you didn't expect. All these things have happened to me and so many of my clients. You can have somebody who's, sent you a text asking you out or sent you an email asking you out, and you didn't realize it because you were sleeping and you were out to dinner with someone else. So until midnight of that night, when you said that thing was going to happen that day, Don't give up. Then, if you didn't make it, then look at the goal with fresh eyes and see if there's anything about that goal that is inconsistent with your true desire. Because if you're torn between that goal and some other version of it, you're not going to reach it. So you have to be crystal clear. If you're busy thinking you don't deserve $300,000 gross, you're not going to get $300,000 gross. Unless I'm working with you and I'm like using every bit of magical wizardry I can come up with, you know, to make you feel good about yourself and make you do work you haven't been willing to do before. So when you get to that midnight or the next morning, you haven't reached the goal, reconsider the goal, rewrite the goal, and then set it as your goal. And then you are off doing what you need to do to make it happen.
I like that. Never give up.
Never.
How do you get support for certain goals that are too big to accomplish by yourself?
This is where you have people called friends and mentors. So anyone who is successful has a lot of mentors in their field and a lot of friends in their lives. There's no way to be successful in anything big without it. Now, there are certain things you can't accomplish without a team anyway. I mean, for example, if you're a director or a producer or an actor, everything you do requires a huge team. And that's very stressful, you know, because you've got to find a lot of great people and they all have to do what they do brilliantly. And then and only then are you able to, you know, be the actor or the director or the producer that you want to be. So there are other fields where you pretty much are on your own. That's why I love being a coach. It's really fantastic. I did all those team sports for too many decades. Now this is a joy. But doesn't mean we don't have mentors. Doesn't mean we don't have friends. Doesn't mean we don't have people who help us. Every single one of us needs a lot of people.
I like that. Encouragement is wonderful. Now, we're going to go into eclipses, and can you explain what this is going to be about?
Yes, I really hope you love this. I love this clip. This is about the difference between practical and rational and using magical thinking. So hope